This video contains 100 sample questions from Domain 7 of the CISSP to help you learn the Security Operations module. In addition to getting you ready for the CISSP exam, it will improve your understanding of the different types of security operations. After answering each question, pause the video to confirm your choice, and then check to see if you were correct. Let's begin with the first question. 1. A security team detects a major data breach and begins a forensic investigation. What is the single most critical step to ensure the collected digital evidence maintains its admissibility in a potential court proceeding? A. Documenting the security policy violations by the internal threat actors. B. Analyzing the integrity of the collected data using cryptographic hashing functions. C. Maintain an unbroken, detailed chain of custody for every piece of evidence. D. Segregating the compromised system from the network immediately after detection. The correct answer is C. Maintain an unbroken, detailed chain of custody for every piece of evidence. Explanation. The chain of custody is the verifiable documentation that accounts for all access, transfer, and handling of the evidence from collection to presentation. It is the primary legal proof that the evidence has not been tampered with, making it the most critical factor for admissibility. Hashing ensures integrity, but as part of custody, documentation and segregation are necessary but secondary to the chain of custody requirement. 2. Upon concluding an internal investigation into an employee's policy violation, a security analyst prepares the final report. What key characteristic must the report possess to serve as an effective, reliable, and sufficient artifact for management and legal review? A. It must prioritize clear recommendations for future policy and procedural updates. B. It must include expert opinions and circumstantial evidence to support the final conclusion. C. The report must limit its scope to only the technical findings and system logs from the investigation. D. The report must contain consistent, verifiable facts that are relevant and complete. The correct answer is D. The report must contain consistent, verifiable facts that are relevant and complete. Explanation. For evidence and subsequent reports to be considered admissible and reliable in a legal context, they must be complete, sufficient, relevant, and reliable, meaning they must be factual and consistent with the established record. Recommendations mentioned in Option A or expert opinion mentioned in Option B alone do not establish reliability. Limiting the scope mentioned in Option C may render the report incomplete. 3. During a criminal investigation, law enforcement suspects a key server holds crucial evidence. They secure the system and plan to extract data. What is the accepted, non-destructive technique that must be employed before any analysis begins on the original physical media? A. Create a bit-for-bit forensic image of the storage media using a write blocker. B. Capture volatile data, such as RAM and CPU registers, before powering down the server. C. Conduct an initial review of system logs to ascertain the extent of the alleged compromise. D. Preserve the system's operational status by making an exact virtual clone of the machine. The correct answer is A. Create a bit-for-bit forensic image of the storage media using a write blocker. Explanation. The use of a write blocker and creating a bit-for-bit image is the fundamental initial step in digital forensics. This procedure ensures the original evidence, the hard drive, is preserved in a pristine state and remains untainted, with all subsequent analysis performed on the copy. Capturing volatile data mentioned in Option B is also a preservation step, but imaging is the necessary step before media analysis. 4. A forensic examiner is tasked with analyzing volatile data from an infected server. Following the order of volatility, which data source should the examiner prioritize to capture before its loss becomes irreversible? A. Archived backup tapes and offline storage media. B. Data stored on the magnetic hard disk drive. C. System memory, RAM and running processes. D. Router configuration files and cached ARP tables. The correct answer is C. System memory, RAM and running processes. Explanation. The order of volatility dictates which data must be captured first because it is the most fleeting. RAM and running processes are highly volatile and are lost immediately upon system shutdown or reboot, making them a higher priority than logs or hard drive data. 5. A security team is performing a post-incident review and discovers that a database administrator accessed sensitive data outside of normal working hours. Which artifact is most effective for linking the specific action to the user's identity and machine? A. Network traffic captures, CAPS, showing the connection handshake. B. Application and operating system audit logs correlated with user access times. C. Antivirus logs indicating the presence of a potential exploit kit. D. Configuration Management Database, CMDB, entries for the affected server. The correct answer is B. Application and operating system audit logs correlated with user access times. Explanation. Audit logs provide the most granular and explicit record of who performed what action and when on a specific system or application. Correlating this data provides the necessary non-repudiation and detail to tie the access to the user's identity, which is more effective than generic network traffic, as mentioned in option A, or configuration records mentioned in option D. 6. After an incident involving the discovery of advanced malware, the security team decides to quarantine the affected system and initiate a forensic process. What specific function must the forensic tool perform on the disk image to guarantee the integrity of the evidence before analysis? A. Compression of the image file to minimize storage space. B. Generation of a digital signature, hash, of the image. C. Real-time encryption of the network traffic during the imaging process. D. Writing the image file to a volatile storage medium for immediate review. The correct answer is B. Generation of a digital signature, hash, of the image. Explanation. Generating a cryptographic hash, digital signature, of the forensic image is crucial. It acts as a unique digital fingerprint, proving that the evidence has not been altered from the moment it was collected, thus guaranteeing its integrity and admissibility. 7. A key part of the investigation process involves securing a mobile device that may contain evidence. Given the device is currently unlocked and in use, what is the most critical first step the investigator must take before any data extraction? A. Document the model and serial number of the device. B. Place the device in a Faraday bag to prevent remote access. C. Capture the contents of the volatile memory, RAM. D. Power off the device immediately to preserve the disk state. The correct answer is C. Capture the contents of the volatile memory, RAM. Explanation. Since the mobile device is unlocked and in use, the most volatile evidence, passcodes, active processes, and connection data, is in RAM. This data must be captured first, as it is lost immediately upon powering down, as mentioned in option D. Placing it in a Faraday bag, mentioned in option B, only prevents remote access but doesn't capture the volatile RAM. 8. To mitigate high false positive rates from the perimeter IDS, a security architect implements clipping levels. What is the primary function of clipping levels in this context? A. Limiting the total volume of security log data transmitted to the central CIEM server. B. Blocking communication from any IP address that exceeds a predefined rate limit threshold. C. Establishing a minimum threshold for the severity score of an alert before escalation. D. Establishing a predefined threshold for suspicious errors or events before an alert is triggered. The correct answer is D. Establishing a predefined threshold for suspicious errors or events before an alert is triggered. Explanation. Clipping levels are a control used to prevent alert fatigue by setting a minimum count or threshold of certain types of non-critical errors or events. Once this level is clipped or crossed, the activity is considered suspicious, and a comprehensive alert is generated. 9. A Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, is evaluating a new CIEM solution. Which feature of the CIEM provides the most significant operational value by transforming disparate log entries into a single, cohesive security narrative for investigation? A. Real-time correlation and aggregation of log data from multiple, diverse sources. B. Secure, long-term storage of all raw log data for historical forensics. C. Automated backup and replication of the system database to a cold site. D. Generation of monthly compliance reports and executive-level dashboards. The correct answer is A. Real-time correlation and aggregation of log data from multiple, diverse sources. Explanation. The most significant operational value of a SIEM is its ability to centralize, aggregate, and, crucially, correlate events from different systems, firewall, server, application, etc. This correlation allows the security team to identify complex attack sequences that individual logs would miss. 10. To ensure the ongoing effectiveness of security controls, a security manager establishes a continuous monitoring program. What is the most crucial reason to periodically tune the security sensors and SIEM rule sets? A. To update the rule sets with the latest threat intelligence and vulnerability signatures. B. To reduce the ratio of false positive alerts while ensuring that true threats are not missed. C. To maintain compliance with the regulatory requirements for log retention and storage. D. To reconfigure the IDPS to adapt to new network topology changes and host additions. The correct answer is B. To reduce the ratio of false positive alerts while ensuring that true threats are not missed. Explanation. Tuning is the process of adjusting the sensitivity and thresholds of monitoring systems to optimize the signal-to-noise ratio. The most crucial outcome is reducing false positives, alert fatigue, while making sure the detection of true threats, minimizing false negatives, is not compromised. 11. An organization is concerned about internal data exfiltration. Which monitoring activity is specifically designed to detect and block unauthorized transmission of sensitive data leaving the corporate network? A. Analyzing packet headers at internal network segments to map connection flow. B. Utilizing firewall rules to deny all unsolicited inbound connections from external networks. C. Deploying data loss prevention, DLP, agents and firewalls at the network perimeter. D. Implementing user and entity behavior analytics, UEBA, to identify abnormal account activity. The correct answer is C. Deploying data loss prevention, DLP, agents and firewalls at the network perimeter. Explanation. Egress monitoring focuses on traffic leaving the network. Deploying DLP and perimeter devices that inspect outgoing content is the most direct and effective measure to detect and prevent unauthorized data exfiltration, data theft. Implementing user and entity behavior analytics, UEBA, mentioned in option D is related, but is focused on user anomalies, not just the egress traffic itself. 12. A new regulation mandates that all security logs must be retained for 7 years. What primary security consideration must be addressed when designing the long-term log archival solution? A. Ensuring the confidentiality of the logs via strong, long-term encryption keys. B. Ensuring the integrity and tamper-proof storage of the archived logs for the entire retention period. C. Implementing a geographically diverse storage solution to maximize the availability of all data. D. Establishing a robust indexing and search engine to allow for rapid retrieval of the logs. The correct answer is B. Ensuring the integrity and tamper-proof storage of the archived logs for the entire retention period. Explanation. For logs to meet a regulatory or legal mandate, they must be reliable as evidence. Therefore, integrity and non-repudiation are the most critical concerns. The organization must prove that the logs have not been altered or corrupted over the entire retention period. Availability and searchability are operational, and confidentiality is an important concern, but integrity is paramount for compliance. 13. A security operations team subscribes to several threat data feeds. What is the most effective way for the team to transition raw threat feeds, indicators of compromise, into actionable threat intelligence? A. Implementing automatic blocking rules on firewalls and email gateways based on the feed IP addresses. B. Storing the raw feed data in a centralized database for analysts to access on demand. C. Sharing the feed data with peer organizations in the same industry sector. D. Analyzing and correlating the raw feed data with internal asset vulnerabilities and logs to determine relevance and priority. The correct answer is D. Analyzing and correlating the raw feed data with internal asset vulnerabilities and logs to determine relevance and priority. Explanation. Threat intelligence is defined by its actionable nature. Raw feed data only becomes intelligence when they are processed, analyzed, and contextualized against the organization's unique assets and risk profile to prioritize which threats pose the greatest danger. 14. A security architecture includes both a traditional SIEM and a newly implemented UEBA system. What is the unique analytical capability provided by the UEBA that significantly enhances the SIEM's ability to detect advanced persistent threats, APTs? A. Establishing and comparing user and system activity against individualized behavioral baselines to detect anomalies. B. Automatically generating high-fidelity alerts based on known indicators of compromise, IOCS. C. Centralizing and normalizing log data from disparate sources across the entire network infrastructure. D. Enforcing automated remediation steps, such as quarantining an infected endpoint, without human intervention. The correct answer is A. Establishing and comparing user and system activity against individualized behavioral baselines to detect anomalies. Explanation. UEBA's unique value is its focus on analyzing the behavior of users and entities, creating a statistical baseline of normal activity for each. It detects subtle, sophisticated attacks, like APTs or insider threats, by flagging deviations from this norm, which is a capability beyond traditional SIEM rule sets. 15. An organization relies on cloud-based storage for all long-term archived logs. To ensure compliance with evidentiary requirements for the full retention period, what is the primary security control the organization must maintain over this data? A. Strong service level agreements, SLAs, with the cloud provider. B. Cryptographic hashing and tamper-evident storage configurations. C. Geographically diverse storage across multiple continents. D. High-speed network connectivity to allow rapid log retrieval. The correct answer is B. Cryptographic hashing and tamper-evident storage configurations. Explanation. For archived logs to be admissible as evidence, their integrity must be proven over the entire retention period. Cryptographic hashing, e.g., SHA-256, and a secure, tamper-evident storage setup, like worm, immutable storage, are the controls that provide this non-repudiation and legal assurance. 16. A security analyst uses a specialized tool to analyze all outbound network connections from the internal network for the presence of unknown protocols or encrypted command and control tunnels. Which monitoring concept is this analyst executing? A. User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA. B. Egress monitoring. C. Honeynet deployment. D. Vulnerability scanning. The correct answer is B. Egress monitoring. Explanation. Egress monitoring is specifically concerned with observing, analyzing, and controlling the traffic leaving the organization's network. This is the mechanism used to detect data exfiltration, C2 channels, and unauthorized outbound communications. 17. An organization uses a dedicated team to proactively search the network for signs of compromise that have evaded existing detection controls. Which activity is this team performing? A. Configuration management. B. Log management. C. Threat hunting. D. Continuous monitoring. The correct answer is C. Threat hunting. Explanation. Threat hunting is the proactive, iterative, and manual process of searching through network and system data, logs, flow data, memory dumps, to detect threats and malicious actors that have bypassed automated security systems. 18. Following a major security incident, the CISO requires a detailed report that links the attack techniques used to specific publicly documented threat actor groups. Which security function is responsible for providing this high-level, contextual information? A. Log management. B. Incident response. C. Threat intelligence. D. Vulnerability management. The correct answer is C. Threat intelligence. Explanation. Threat intelligence transforms raw threat data into actionable, contextualized knowledge. This includes linking specific attack patterns to known groups, providing the necessary insight for strategic and tactical decision-making, which is required by the CISO. 19. A security professional observes a user logging into a critical financial system at 3 a.m., a time that is statistically abnormal for that user. Which technology is best equipped to detect and flag this specific type of anomaly? A. Intrusion Detection System, IDS. B. User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA. C. Network Firewall. D. Data Loss Prevention, DLP. The correct answer is B. User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA. Explanation. UEBA establishes individualized baselines of normal user behavior, e.g., typical login times, systems accessed, data volume, and flags statistically significant deviations from that norm, making it ideal for detecting compromised accounts or insider threats. 20. A security analyst is attempting to correlate security events from a firewall, an application server, and a database server to identify a multi-stage attack. Which tool provides the capability for this holistic, time-based analysis? A. Network Intrusion Detection System, NIDS. B. Security Information and Event Management, SIEM. C. Digital Forensics Workstation. D. Web Application Firewall, WAF. The correct answer is B. Security Information and Event Management, SIEM. Explanation. The SIEM system is designed to centralize, aggregate, and, most importantly, correlate logs from multiple disparate sources, firewall, server, database, based on time and common attributes, making it the essential tool for multi-stage attack analysis. 21. After a successful pilot, an organization plans to automate the deployment of server configurations. What is the primary security benefit derived from utilizing configuration management, CM, automation and maintaining a golden image baseline? A. It significantly lowers the recurring licensing costs associated with the server operating systems. B. It accelerates the organization's compliance reporting obligations by providing centralized control logs. C. Ensuring that all newly provisioned systems deploy with a consistent, security-hardened standard configuration. D. Providing a simplified interface for all end users to request and provision their own virtual machine instances. The correct answer is C. Ensuring that all newly provisioned systems deploy with a consistent, security-hardened standard configuration. Explanation. Configuration management, CM, ensures that all systems are deployed using a hardened and approved baseline. This consistency eliminates manual configuration errors, prevents security configuration drift, and minimizes the attack surface from day one, which is the primary security benefit. 22. An organization uses automation scripts to ensure that all server configurations are consistent and align with the security baseline. This practice falls under which security operations activity? A. Log management. B. Patch management. C. Configuration management, CM. D. Incident management. The correct answer is C. Configuration management, CM. Explanation. Configuration management, CM, involves the identification, control, and tracking of changes to a system's configuration. Automation scripts are used for baselining and provisioning to ensure consistency, prevent configuration drift, and maintain the desired secure state. 23. When granting a new employee access to an application that processes protected health information, PHI, an administrator must adhere to two foundational concepts. What is the primary difference between least privilege and need to know? A. Least privilege is a mandatory access control, MAC, while need to know is a discretionary access control, DAC. B. Least privilege governs the technical access rights granted, while need to know governs whether the user is authorized to see the data, regardless of technical access. C. Least privilege prevents security incidents, while need to know focuses on compliance with data protection regulations. D. Least privilege applies to human users, while need to know applies only to system processes and service accounts. The correct answer is B. Least privilege governs the technical access rights granted, while need to know governs whether the user is authorized to see the data, regardless of technical access. Explanation. Need to know is an administrative and conceptual control that dictates a subject should only have access to information essential for their job function. Least privilege is the technical enforcement of this concept, granting only the absolute minimum permissions, read, write, execute, required to perform the job function. 24. A company implements a control requiring two separate administrators to authorize any changes to the master firewall configuration file. This practice is an example of which foundational security principle? A. Need to know. B. Job rotation. C. Dual-factor authentication. D. Separation of duties, SOD, enforced via the two-person control procedure. The correct answer is D. Separation of duties, SOD, enforced via the two-person control procedure. Explanation. Separation of duties, SOD, is the principle that no single person should be able to complete a critical or high-risk task alone, thus preventing fraud and reducing errors. The requirement for a second administrator to approve changes is a direct, technical implementation of this concept, often called two-person control. 25. To manage the significant risk posed by administrative accounts, an organization mandates that all IT staff must use a separate, non-privileged account for day-to-day work. What is the main security objective this practice achieves? A. Reducing the risk of insider trading by preventing high-level staff from accessing sensitive financial systems. B. Enforcing compliance with regulatory mandates requiring annual audits of all systems. C. Reducing the attack surface and blast radius in case a user's primary workstation is compromised. D. Simplifying the process for incident responders to quickly identify the source of a network intrusion. The correct answer is C. Reducing the attack surface and blast radius in case a user's primary workstation is compromised. Explanation. Using separate accounts ensures that the high-value privileged credentials are only used when absolutely necessary and are never unnecessarily exposed on the user's primary desktop machine, which is often a target for malware. This separation significantly limits the potential for lateral movement, blast radius, if the desktop is compromised. 26. A company institutes a mandatory policy that requires employees in critical financial roles to switch positions every 12 to 18 months. Beyond cross-training, what is the primary security goal of job rotation? A. Discouraging insider fraud or collusion by preventing employees from maintaining unchecked control over processes long-term. B. Ensuring that all system configurations are reviewed and updated by multiple teams annually. C. Providing a mandatory vacation period for employees to reduce stress and burnout. D. Lowering the overall cost of operations by cross-training staff to fill multiple vacancies. The correct answer is A. Discouraging insider fraud or collusion by preventing employees from maintaining unchecked control over processes long-term. Explanation. Job rotation is an administrative control that serves as a detective and deterrent mechanism. By regularly moving personnel, it prevents any one employee from carrying out fraudulent activities indefinitely, as the next person in the role is likely to uncover any irregularities. 27. When contracting with a cloud service provider, CSP, for hosting a critical application, the security team must negotiate an SLA. Which component of the SLA is most vital for ensuring the security and continuous availability of the application environment? A. A clause defining the maximum allowable financial penalties for service disruptions. B. A section detailing the minimum annual training requirements for the CSP support staff. C. Clearly defined metrics for uptime, performance, and specific security responsibilities, e.g., patching cadence, RTO, RPO targets. D. Mandating that all customer data must be hosted exclusively within the client's home country. The correct answer is C. Clearly defined metrics for uptime, performance, and specific security responsibilities, e.g., patching cadence, RTO, RPO targets. Explanation. A service-level agreement, SLA, must contain specific, measurable, and contractual terms that define the minimum acceptable performance, uptime, performance, and the agreed-upon security controls and responsibilities, RTO, RPO, and patching are examples, to meet the organization's security and business continuity requirements. 28. A security operations manager wants to implement a measure to prevent any single administrator from having the sole power to provision new user accounts and assign them elevated privileges. Which foundational control is being enforced? A. Job rotation. B. Separation of duties, SOD. C. Least privilege. D. Mandatory vacation. The correct answer is B. Separation of duties, SOD. Explanation. Separation of duties, SOD, is the control that mandates that no one individual should have sufficient authority or control to perform a high-risk or critical task from end to end, such as creation, approval, and execution. This policy prevents fraud and reduces the risk of errors by requiring multiple parties to be involved. 29. A database administrator is granted read/write access to a specific table needed for a quarterly report but is explicitly denied access to all other tables. Which security concept is primarily being enforced? A. Two-person control. B. Job rotation. C. Need to know. D. Separation of duties. The correct answer is C. Need to know. Explanation. The need-to-know principle dictates that access to specific data objects, like a database table, should only be granted if it is strictly necessary to perform the job function. While least privilege enforces the level of access, read/write, need-to-know determines whether the access is justified. 30. A business requires that all employees take a 1-week mandatory, non-negotiable vacation annually. This administrative control directly supports which security principle, especially regarding internal fraud? A. Need to know. B. Mandatory vacation, related to job rotation. C. Least privilege. D. Two-person control. The correct answer is B. Mandatory vacation, related to job rotation. Explanation. Mandatory vacation is an administrative control that forces an employee away from their duties. This allows auditors or other employees to review the individual's work or assume their responsibilities, often uncovering fraudulent or illicit activities that the employee was hiding. 31. A data center manager must dispose of several decommissioned hard drives that contain highly sensitive customer data. Which destruction technique is considered the most secure and non-recoverable method for this magnetic media? A. Overwriting the drive platters 3 times with random data using an approved software utility. B. Using a magnetic head to wipe the drive platters 1 time, then recycling the remaining components. C. Incinerating the drives in a standard commercial furnace designed for high-temperature material disposal. D. Degaussing the drives followed by physical destruction through pulverization or shredding. The correct answer is D. Degaussing the drives followed by physical destruction through pulverization or shredding. Explanation. Degaussing eliminates the magnetic field, rendering the data virtually unreadable. Combining this with physical destruction, shredding or pulverization, provides a 2-step, verifiable, and most secure method to ensure the data is non-recoverable from magnetic media. Overwriting, mentioned in option A, and simple incineration, mentioned in option C, are less reliable. 32. To protect sensitive information stored on a portable USB drive, an organization requires hardware-based encryption. This control primarily protects the data in which state? A. Data in process, by securing the data while it is actively being used by a running application. B. Data at rest, by making the data unintelligible to unauthorized parties who gain physical possession of the device. C. Data in motion, by encrypting the data while it is being transmitted across the network link. D. Data in use, by enforcing strict access control policies on the file system permissions. The correct answer is B. Data at rest, by making the data unintelligible to unauthorized parties who gain physical possession of the device. Explanation. Data at rest refers to data stored on a non-volatile medium, such as a hard drive, tape, or USB drive. Encryption on the drive protects the data when the device is not actively being used or is lost, ensuring its confidentiality if physical control is lost. 33. A security architect is designing a system to handle customer financial data. To protect data traveling between the application server and the database server within the same data center, which control is most appropriate to protect this data in transit? A. Encrypting the entire database contents using a transparent data encryption (TDE) solution. B. Implementing mandatory 2-factor authentication for all database administrator accounts. C. Using transport layer security (TLS) for the communication channel between the servers. D. Applying digital rights management, DRM, to all output reports generated by the application. The correct answer is C. Using transport layer security, TLS, for the communication channel between the servers. Explanation. Data in transit protection involves securing data while it is actively moving over a communication channel. TLS, SSL are the standard, most appropriate cryptographic protocols to secure data over an internal or external network link. Transparent data encryption, TDE, protects data at rest, two-factor authentication, 2FA, protects access, and digital rights management, DRM, protects data in use or at rest. 34. A company's policy requires that all documents classified as top secret must be stored on encrypted flash drives when transported outside the office. This control primarily serves to protect the confidentiality of the data in which state. A. Data in use. B. Data in process. C. Data in transit. D. Data at rest. The correct answer is D. Data at rest. Explanation. The data stored on a flash drive that is not actively being used or transmitted is considered data at rest. Encrypting the flash drive protects the confidentiality of this data if the physical media is lost or stolen. 35. A security team is implementing a system to quickly identify and prevent data exfiltration. The system should inspect the content of all communication channels leaving the network. Which security control is best suited for this role? A. Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. B. Data Loss Prevention, DLP. C. Web Application Firewall, WAF. D. Network Access Control, NAC. The correct answer is B. Data Loss Prevention, DLP. Explanation. DLP systems are specifically designed to analyze outgoing content, emails, file transfers, HTTP posts, for sensitive data, such as credit card numbers and PII, based on policies, and then block, quarantine, or encrypt the transmission to prevent data loss or exfiltration. 36. To protect highly sensitive government data stored on backup tapes, the organization decides to use permanent magnetic field destruction. What is the technical name for this process of applying a large magnetic force to media? A. Pulverization. B. Sanitization. C. Incineration. D. Degaussing. The correct answer is D. Degaussing. Explanation. Degaussing is the process of eliminating the magnetic field on magnetic media, like tapes or hard drives, using a strong magnet, which effectively destroys the stored data by randomly aligning the magnetic domains, rendering the data non-recoverable. 37. What is the primary reason why an organization should implement strong encryption to protect data at rest, DAR, on its storage systems? A. To prevent traffic analysis of the data during transmission across the network. B. To guarantee the physical availability of the data during a system failure. C. To ensure data confidentiality if physical access or theft of the storage media occurs. D. To comply with the recovery time objective, RTO, for the application. The correct answer is C. To ensure data confidentiality if physical access or theft of the storage media occurs. Explanation. The main threat to data at rest is the unauthorized physical access or theft of the storage media, a hard drive, tape. Encryption renders the data unreadable to anyone who gains access to the physical storage device, thereby protecting its confidentiality. 38. A SIEM system flags an abnormal amount of data transfer from an HR server to an external IP address. What is the immediate, essential next step in the incident management lifecycle after this initial detection? A. Notifying the external law enforcement agency to begin a criminal investigation into the incident. B. Activating the communications plan to notify all external stakeholders about the data breach. C. Performing an in-depth analysis to confirm the event is a genuine incident and not a false positive. D. Immediately isolating the HR server from the corporate network to prevent further data loss. The correct answer is C. Performing an in-depth analysis to confirm the event is a genuine incident and not a false positive. Explanation. The first step after an event is detected is analysis, triage, part of the detection phase, to determine if it is a true security incident that requires a formal response. Premature isolation or external notification wastes resources and risks errors if the event is a false alarm. 39. During an ongoing attack, the incident response team determines a specific user account is being used for command and control activity. To implement effective response and containment, what is the most appropriate action regarding the compromised account? A. Monitor the account's activities closely to gather further intelligence on the attacker's methods. B. Immediately disable the user account and force a reset of all associated passwords. C. Deploy a honeypot on the compromised machine to redirect the attacker's activities. D. Delete the account from the system entirely to ensure the attacker cannot regain access. The correct answer is B. Immediately disable the user account and force a reset of all associated passwords. Explanation. The most appropriate response and containment action for a compromised credential is to immediately revoke the attacker's access by disabling the account and invalidating the credentials through a password reset. Monitoring risks for further damage and deletion may destroy crucial evidence. 40. Following the containment of a widespread ransomware attack, the incident response team needs to implement measures to reduce the overall damage and limit the long-term impact. This phase is known as mitigation. What is the key goal of the mitigation phase? A. Implementing permanent controls to prevent the root cause of the infection from recurring in the future. B. Restoring all affected systems to their pre-incident operational state from clean backups. C. Analyzing the attacker's motives and techniques to improve the organization's threat intelligence. D. Executing short-term actions to restrict the attack scope and minimize business disruption. The correct answer is D. Executing short-term actions to restrict the attack scope and minimize business disruption. Explanation. Mitigation involves taking short-term, tactical actions, often concurrently with containment, to limit the negative consequences, such as restricting services, patching key exploits, or isolating segments, to minimize immediate and ongoing damage. Implementing remediation mentioned in Option A is a later phase, and restoration mentioned in Option B is part of recovery. 41. Upon completing the final steps of an incident, the response manager must communicate the findings. What is the primary purpose of the reporting phase in the incident management process? A. To serve as a legal document for litigation and to fulfill regulatory disclosure requirements. B. To obtain executive approval for the budget required to purchase new security technology. C. To officially document the incident's timeline, actions taken, and the systems affected. D. To notify all employees of the incident so they can change their passwords immediately. The correct answer is C. To officially document the incident's timeline, actions taken, and the systems affected. Explanation. The reporting phase creates the official, documented record of the entire incident, timeline, scope, actions, and findings. This report is necessary for due diligence, internal accountability, and future analysis, and it supports subsequent legal or regulatory requirements. 42. After a critical server failure due to a hardware malfunction, the operations team executes the defined restoration plan. The goal of the recovery phase is best defined by which statement? A. Ensuring that the incident response team adheres strictly to the predetermined chain of custody. B. Bringing the affected systems back to a validated, operational state based on the recovery time objective, RTO. C. Determining the root cause of the incident for permanent application of compensating controls. D. Conducting a full-scale forensic analysis of the failed server to confirm the type of attack vector. The correct answer is B. Bringing the affected systems back to a validated, operational state based on the recovery time objective, RTO. Explanation. Recovery is the phase where systems are brought back to a production state, often by restoring from backups and verifying functionality. This phase is fundamentally driven by the organization's established RTO, recovery time objective. 43. Following a successful phishing campaign that bypassed the email filter, the security team is tasked with implementing permanent controls to prevent a recurrence. This activity is classified under which incident management stage? A. Restoration. B. Containment. C. Remediation. D. Detection. The correct answer is C. Remediation. Explanation. Remediation is the final, long-term phase of the incident process where permanent controls are put in place to fix the root cause and improve the security posture, such as changing the email filter configuration, enhancing user training. Restoration simply brings systems back online, while remediation focuses on preventing future incidents. 44. After a major service disruption incident, the final activity is a formal post-mortem review. What is the primary and most valuable objective of the lessons learned process? A. To identify the specific employees responsible for the security lapse to implement disciplinary action. B. To update the organization's security policies and incident response plan based on practical experience. C. To calculate the total financial loss incurred by the business due to the unplanned outage. D. To generate the final report for regulatory bodies to demonstrate compliance adherence. The correct answer is B. To update the organization's security policies and incident response plan based on practical experience. Explanation. The lessons learned process is a non-punitive, formal review aimed at improving future response capabilities and overall security posture. Its primary value is to feed back practical insights into the policy, procedures, and training documents for continuous improvement. 45. Which phase of the incident management lifecycle has the primary objective of ensuring that the compromise does not spread to other systems and that the attack is stopped in its tracks? A. Detection. B. Recovery. C. Remediation. D. Response, containment. The correct answer is D. Response, containment. Explanation. Containment is a critical part of the response phase. Its sole objective is to stop the malicious activity, limit the breach's scope, and prevent further damage or spread across the network, stabilizing the environment before recovery begins. 46. What is the key objective of the remediation phase of incident management, distinguishing it from the recovery phase? A. Isolating the affected systems from the network for forensic imaging. B. Bringing the system back online from a clean backup based on the RTO. C. Implementing long-term solutions to address the root cause and prevent recurrence. D. Formalizing the post-incident report for all relevant stakeholders. The correct answer is C. Implementing long-term solutions to address the root cause and prevent recurrence. Explanation. Remediation is focused on the permanent fix, identifying the root cause, patching the vulnerability and reconfiguring the firewall, and implementing controls to prevent the same incident from happening again. 47. A security analyst is performing an incident assessment and needs to determine if a recent system event meets the criteria for a security incident. What is the primary factor that elevates an event to an incident? A. Any recorded entry in the CM log database. B. The event results in a financial loss to the organization. C. The event violates the organization's security policy or acceptable use policy. D. The event involves an external IP address connecting to an internal host. The correct answer is C. The event violates the organization's security policy or acceptable use policy. Explanation. An event is any observable occurrence in a system. It becomes a formal security incident when it is determined that the event has actually caused or been linked to a confirmed violation of security policy, which may or may not include a financial loss. 48. A new network architecture includes next-generation firewalls, NGFWs. What is the key functional capability that an NGFW provides beyond a traditional stateful inspection firewall? A. The ability to perform deep packet inspection, DPI, to identify and control applications based on content. B. Maintaining a state table to track active connections and only allow return traffic. C. Providing network address translation, NAT, and port address translation, PAT, services. D. Supporting access control lists, ACLs, based on IP addresses and transport ports. The correct answer is A. The ability to perform deep packet inspection, DPI, to identify and control applications based on content. Explanation. Next-generation firewalls, NGFWs, combine the functionality of a traditional firewall with other security services. The key distinction is their ability to use deep packet inspection, DPI, to identify and control traffic based on the application layer content, not just port or protocol, enabling more granular security policies. 49. A security team is deploying a new security appliance to actively block detected attacks on critical server segments. Which technology should be selected to provide this active prevention capability rather than mere passive detection? A. Network Intrusion Detection System, NIDS. B. Security Information and Event Management, SIEM. C. Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. D. Network Access Control, NAC. The correct answer is C. Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. Explanation. An intrusion prevention system, IPS, is specifically designed to not only detect, like an IDS, but also to actively and automatically prevent threats in real time by dropping malicious packets, resetting connections, or blocking source addresses. 50. A system administrator is implementing a strict security policy on end-user workstations to prevent unauthorized software execution. Which control, due to its explicit definition of approved programs, offers the highest level of proactive security against zero-day malware? A. Implementing a comprehensive antivirus suite that uses signature-based detection. B. Enforcing application whitelisting for all executable files on the endpoint. C. Applying a global software blacklist containing known malware hash values. D. Restricting the end users to non-privileged accounts without installation rights. The correct answer is B. Enforcing application whitelisting for all executable files on the endpoint. Explanation. Whitelisting is a highly proactive control because it explicitly permits only known, approved applications to run and implicitly denies all others. This is effective against zero-day and unknown malware that signature-based or blacklist-based systems may miss. 51. A business uses several third-party services for managing HR functions and payroll. What is the most critical technical measure to implement to reduce the risk associated with these vendor-provided security services? A. Integrating the vendor's security logs into the organization's central SIEM for continuous monitoring. B. Mandating that the third-party vendor undergo a full penetration test annually. C. Requiring the vendor to carry a specific level of cyber liability insurance coverage. D. Ensuring a contract clause for immediate termination with cause for security incidents. The correct answer is A. Integrating the vendor's security logs into the organization's central SIEM for continuous monitoring. Explanation. While contractual controls are essential, the most critical technical measure is continuous monitoring. Integrating the vendor's logs provides the necessary transparency and visibility to detect and analyze suspicious activity originating from or targeting the third-party service environment. 52. A security analyst receives a suspicious email attachment and wants to analyze the file's behavior without risking the integrity of the corporate network. Which protective technology is specifically designed for this purpose? A. Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. B. Web Application Firewall, WAF. C. Virtual Private Network, VPN. D. Sandboxing Environment. The correct answer is D. Sandboxing Environment. Explanation. A sandbox is an isolated, virtual environment designed to execute and analyze suspicious code or files safely. It contains any malicious actions within the environment, preventing them from affecting the host system or the wider corporate network. 53. A security team deploys a decoy system filled with simulated data and credentials on an isolated network segment. What is the primary security objective of implementing this honeypot? A. To serve as a preventative measure by acting as a strong, final defense layer to repel attackers. B. To gather comprehensive, real-time intelligence on an attacker's tools, tactics, and procedures, TTPs. C. To redirect malicious network traffic away from the live production environment. D. To automatically quarantine the compromised systems that attempt to connect to the decoy. The correct answer is B. To gather comprehensive, real-time intelligence on an attacker's tools, tactics, and procedures, TTPs. Explanation. The main purpose of a honeypot is information gathering and acting as a detective control. By attracting attackers, it allows the organization to observe and learn about their attack methodologies, helping to refine defenses for the actual production network. 54. An organization integrates machine learning capabilities into its anti-malware solution. What unique advantage does this feature provide over traditional signature-based anti-malware software? A. The ability to guarantee a perfect zero-day threat detection rate without any false positives. B. The capability to detect and block previously unknown malware by analyzing file behaviors and characteristics. C. Lowering the total system resource usage compared to other security software tools. D. Simplifying the management console to allow non-technical staff to monitor the health of the system. The correct answer is B. The capability to detect and block previously unknown malware by analyzing file behaviors and characteristics. Explanation. Machine learning, ML-based anti-malware uses heuristic and behavioral analysis to identify malicious intent based on patterns, file structure, and dynamic actions, allowing it to effectively detect and block unknown, zero-day, threats for which no pre-existing signature is available. 55. To improve the speed and accuracy of threat detection, a Security Operations Center, SOC, deploys an AI-based tool. Which function is this tool most likely to automate and optimize? A. The physical installation and configuration of new server rack equipment in the data center. B. The correlation of alerts from disparate systems to form cohesive incident narratives. C. The annual review and update of all official security policies and compliance documentation. D. The manual review of every single security event log generated by the entire infrastructure. The correct answer is B. The correlation of alerts from disparate systems to form cohesive incident narratives. Explanation. AI, ML-based tools are highly effective at processing massive volumes of data, making them ideal for automating and optimizing the correlation of alerts across CIEM, IDS, and other logs to identify complex attack patterns that would be missed by human analysts or simple rule sets. 56. A security team is deploying an intrusion detection system, IDS, configured with a signature-based detection engine. What is the key limitation of this approach compared to an anomaly-based detection engine? A. It requires a dedicated security information and event management (SIEM) system for effective operation. B. It often results in a high number of false positive alarms due to overly sensitive rules. C. It is ineffective against zero-day attacks and previously unknown malware variants. D. It requires the security analyst to manually update the signature files daily. The correct answer is C. It is ineffective against zero-day attacks and previously unknown malware variants. Explanation. Signature-based IDS relies on a database of known attack patterns, signatures. Its major limitation is its inability to detect new, never-before-seen threats, zero-day attacks, because no signature exists in the database to match the malicious activity. 57. What is the primary reason why a security architect might recommend the use of a web application firewall, WAF, in addition to a traditional network firewall? A. To prevent distributed denial of service, DDoS, attacks against the IP layer. B. To enforce access control policies based on source IP address and port number. C. To inspect and filter traffic at the application layer, Layer 7, for attacks like SQL injection and XSS. D. To integrate with the CIEM system for centralized logging and correlation. The correct answer is C. To inspect and filter traffic at the application layer, Layer 7, for attacks like SQL injection and XSS. Explanation. A WAF is specifically designed to understand HTTP, HTTPS traffic and inspect the application layer, Layer 7. This allows it to detect and block web-based attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, XSS, and session hijacking that a traditional network firewall cannot see. 58. A security team decides to test a new internal application by running it in a virtualized, isolated environment to observe its interactions with the operating system and file system. This method is an example of which security control? A. Honeypot deployment. B. Blacklisting. C. Sandboxing. D. Egress monitoring. The correct answer is C. Sandboxing. Explanation. Sandboxing is a security mechanism where suspicious or new software is executed in a controlled, isolated environment to observe its behavior and effects, such as attempts to access files or the network, without risking the integrity of the host system. 59. An attacker attempts to exploit a known vulnerability, but the organization's network appliance drops the packets and terminates the connection in real time. Which technology provided this preventive capability? A. Security Information and Event Management, SIEM. B. Network Access Control, NAC. C. Intrusion Detection System, IDS. D. Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. The correct answer is D. Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. Explanation. An intrusion prevention system, IPS, is deployed inline and operates in real time to actively block, drop, or reset malicious network traffic based on attack signatures or behavioral anomalies, thus providing an immediate preventive capability. 60. A security architect decides to implement application blacklisting on all end-user workstations. What is the fundamental security posture this measure achieves? A. Explicitly denying the execution of a list of known, unauthorized application files. B. Implicitly denying the execution of all applications unless they are explicitly authorized. C. Enforcing a sandbox environment for all applications running on the machine. D. Redirecting all unauthorized execution attempts to a honeypot for observation. The correct answer is A. Explicitly denying the execution of a list of known, unauthorized application files. Explanation. Blacklisting is a security model where a list of known malicious or undesirable programs, based on their file hash or name, is maintained, and the system is configured to explicitly deny the execution of only those applications on the list. 61. A vulnerability scanner identifies 500 new flaws across the network. What is the most important factor for the security team to use when prioritizing which vulnerabilities to patch first? A. The ease of applying the patch and the technical skill level of the patching team. B. The publication date of the vulnerability and the age of the affected system. C. The exploitability and the business criticality of the asset being affected. D. The time required for the business owner to formally approve the required change request. The correct answer is C. The exploitability and the business criticality of the asset being affected. Explanation. Prioritization in vulnerability management must be based on a risk assessment. The highest risk issues are those where the vulnerability is easily exploitable and the system it affects holds the most critical business data or function. 62. A security manager is reviewing the organization's patch management process. The step that verifies the patch does not cause operational issues on a subset of non-production systems before mass deployment is best described as which part of the overall process? A. Vulnerability scanning. B. Testing, validation. C. Change management approval. D. Release, deployment. The correct answer is B. Testing, validation. Explanation. Before deploying any patch to production, it must go through a testing, validation phase on a non-critical or isolated environment, a development or staging environment. This ensures that the patch resolves the vulnerability without introducing new flaws or breaking existing functionality. 63. Before deploying a major security patch to a critical production database, the Change Advisory Board, CAB, must approve the change. What is the CAB's primary role in this change management process? A. To perform the final technical installation and verification of the patch on the system. B. To act as the executive body that assigns the required budget for the change implementation. C. To ensure the change is properly documented, tested, and will not cause an unacceptable service disruption. D. To sign off on the change only after the system owner guarantees zero downtime for the installation. The correct answer is C. To ensure the change is properly documented, tested, and will not cause an unacceptable service disruption. Explanation. The Change Advisory Board, CAB, is the governing body that reviews all proposed changes. Its main function is to assess the potential impact, risk, and dependencies of a change to ensure it is necessary, adequately tested, and will not negatively impact business operations. 64. An IT team is establishing a system baseline configuration. What is the relationship between the baseline and the change management (CM) process? A. The baseline is only updated after the CM process is fully decommissioned. B. The CM process must be bypassed when deploying a new system from the baseline. C. The CM process is used to approve any deviation from the established baseline. D. The baseline is a subset of the CM documentation and is non-mandatory. The correct answer is C. The CM process is used to approve any deviation from the established baseline. Explanation. The baseline represents the approved, hardened, and standard configuration. The change management process governs any change, and thus, it must be used to review, approve, and document any proposed deviation from that baseline to ensure security and stability. 65. Before an approved security change can be deployed to production, the requester must submit a detailed plan outlining the potential impact and a backout procedure. This requirement primarily supports which phase of the change management process? A. Request and documentation. B. Testing and validation. C. Deployment and implementation. D. Review and closure. The correct answer is A. Request and documentation. Explanation. The requirement for a detailed plan, potential impact, and a backup procedure is part of the initial request and documentation phase. This documentation is crucial for the Change Advisory Board, CAB, to properly assess the risk before granting approval. 66. A security policy requires that mission-critical data backups be stored in a facility over 500 miles away from the primary data center. This requirement is best characterized as which type of backup storage strategy? A. On-site storage. B. Virtualized storage. C. Off-site, geographically dispersed storage. D. Local redundant storage, LRS. The correct answer is C. Off-site, geographically dispersed storage. Explanation. Off-site or geographically dispersed storage is a strategy that ensures data backups survive a catastrophic regional disaster, such as a hurricane or earthquake, that might affect both the primary site and nearby local storage. A distance of 500 miles ensures this geographic separation. 67. To ensure a core financial application remains operational even if one server fails, the IT team implements a hardware cluster with redundant components and automatic failover. This solution primarily addresses which objective? A. Quality of service, QoS. B. Fault tolerance and high availability, HA. C. Recovery time objective, RTO. D. Multiple processing sites, MPS. The correct answer is B. Fault tolerance and high availability, HA. Explanation. Fault tolerance refers to the system's ability to continue operating without interruption when a component fails. High availability, HA, often achieved through clustering and automatic failover, is the design goal to maximize system uptime and ensure continuous, immediate access, which is the direct result of this implementation. 68. To meet a 4-hour recovery time objective, RTO, for a critical application, the organization decides to utilize a vendor-managed recovery solution. Which type of recovery site strategy would most effectively satisfy this tight RTO requirement? A. Warm site. B. Cold site. C. Subscription to a mobile site trailer service. D. Hot site. The correct answer is D. Hot site. Explanation. A hot site is a fully equipped, mirrored data center with all necessary hardware, network infrastructure, and near real-time data replication. It requires minimal configuration and restoration time, making it the only option capable of meeting a very tight RTO of 4 hours. 69. An organization uses two geographically separated data centers, with active workload balancing and real-time data synchronization between both sites. What primary advantage does this multiple processing site strategy provide over a single site with a hot site backup? A. It simplifies the required complexity of the disaster recovery planning documentation. B. It eliminates the need for any formal testing of the disaster recovery plan. C. It provides inherent system resilience and instant failover in case of a site-wide outage. D. It reduces the total operational cost by consolidating all hardware inventory in one location. The correct answer is C. It provides inherent system resilience and instant failover in case of a site-wide outage. Explanation. Multiple processing sites, active-active, are designed for continuous operation and instantaneous failover. This provides the highest level of resilience and high availability, HA, by ensuring that services are immediately available from the second site without needing a separate recovery process. 70. A key application relies on a service that guarantees a maximum delay and consistent delivery of its data packets, prioritizing its network traffic over less critical traffic. Which system property is being enforced by this mechanism? A. Fault tolerance. B. Quality of service, QoS. C. System resilience. D. Redundant array of independent disks, RAID. The correct answer is B. Quality of service, QoS. Explanation. Quality of service, QoS, is a networking mechanism that manages traffic flow to ensure specific performance criteria, such as maximum delay, minimum bandwidth, and packet loss, are met for critical applications by prioritizing their data delivery over the network. 71. An organization's disaster recovery plan, DRP, has defined a recovery point objective, RPO, of 24 hours. Which backup strategy is the absolute minimum requirement to ensure this RPO is met in the event of a catastrophic failure? A. A full system backup is performed every 3 days. B. The data is replicated in real time to an off-site cold storage facility. C. A full system backup is performed at least once per day. D. An incremental backup is performed every 6 hours, with a full backup monthly. The correct answer is C. A full system backup is performed at least once per day. Explanation. The RPO, recovery point objective, defines the maximum acceptable amount of data loss, measured in time. To ensure a 24-hour RPO, the organization must perform a full backup at least once every 24 hours, guaranteeing no more than a day's worth of data is lost. 72. An administrator is tasked with setting up a new virtual server cluster for high availability. What is the fundamental security principle being applied by implementing redundant components and automatic failover? A. Separation of duties. B. System resilience. C. Need to know. D. Configuration management. The correct answer is B. System resilience. Explanation. System resilience is the ability of a system to maintain an acceptable level of service during a failure or disruption. Implementing redundancy and failover ensures that the system can withstand and recover from component failures gracefully, which is the definition of system resilience and high availability, HA. 73. An organization must ensure that their mission-critical application environment is maintained with no more than 15 minutes of data loss. This requirement is a definition of which key metric? A. Recovery time objective, RTO. B. Recovery point actual, RPA. C. Recovery point objective, RPO. D. Maximum tolerable downtime, MTD. The correct answer is C. Recovery point objective, RPO. Explanation. The recovery point objective, RPO, defines the maximum acceptable amount of data the organization can afford to lose, which directly dictates the required frequency of backups or replication. A 15-minute data loss tolerance means the RPO is 15 minutes. 74. An organization is migrating its disaster recovery capabilities to a cloud provider. They opt for a scenario where they purchase guaranteed capacity and a pre-configured environment, but the systems remain powered down until a disaster is declared. This is known as a resource capacity agreement for which type of recovery site? A. Hot site. B. Warm site. C. Cold site. D. Mobile site. The correct answer is B. Warm site. Explanation. A warm site has the necessary infrastructure, network and hardware, in place, but may lack the latest data or running applications. A resource capacity agreement for a warm site ensures the hardware resources are reserved and can be rapidly deployed, offering a balance of cost and recovery speed. 75. To ensure a minimum service uptime of 99.999%, 5 nines, the organization designs systems with redundant power, networking, and mirrored servers. This design principle is known as A. Recovery time objective, RTO. B. High availability, HA. C. Quality of service, QoS. D. Cold site recovery. The correct answer is B. High availability, HA. Explanation. High availability, HA, is the design goal of ensuring that a system remains operational and accessible for a very high percentage of the time, 99.999%. This is achieved through the implementation of redundant and fault-tolerant components. 76. During the initial phase of a major facility-wide outage, the Disaster Recovery Plan, DRP, team is dispatched to the scene. What is the immediate, overriding priority for the response phase of the DRP? A. Initiating the legal and public relations communications plan. B. Determining the total financial impact of the event on the business. C. Ensuring the safety and well-being of all personnel in the affected area. D. Quickly identifying the root cause of the incident for remediation. The correct answer is C. Ensuring the safety and well-being of all personnel in the affected area. Explanation. The overriding priority in any disaster or emergency scenario, and the first step in the DRP response phase, is always the safety of human life. All other steps, including restoration and assessment, are secondary to personnel safety. 77. A disaster recovery plan, DRP, mandates a designated crisis management team. Which key aspect of the DRP process relies most heavily on the personnel component for its success? A. The technical documentation of the cold site facility's hardware specifications. B. The financial agreement for a recovery time objective, RTO, with the third-party vendor. C. The training, clear roles, and decision-making authority defined for the response team. D. The cryptographic hashing of backup data to ensure data integrity during storage. The correct answer is C. The training, clear roles, and decision-making authority defined for the response team. Explanation. The personnel component is crucial. Successful DRP execution depends on having well-trained staff with clear roles, responsibilities, and the delegated authority to make rapid, critical decisions under stress, ensuring a coordinated and effective response. 78. During a disaster recovery scenario, the technical teams need to coordinate their actions across multiple locations. What DRP element is essential to ensure that all internal and external parties receive timely, consistent, and accurate information? A. Executing the mandatory, documented system backup and restore procedure. B. Adhering strictly to the predefined chain of custody for all physical media. C. Following the established communications plan for situational updates. D. Initiating the legal review of potential liability and insurance claims. The correct answer is C. Following the established communications plan for situational updates. Explanation. The communications plan dictates the internal and external messaging, the methods, dedicated hotlines, secure channels, and the designated spokespersons to ensure that information is consistent, accurate, and timely, reducing confusion and managing stakeholder expectations during a crisis. 79. After the immediate impact of a disaster, the recovery team conducts a detailed analysis to identify the full extent of the damage to systems and data. This step is known as the assessment phase. What is the main outcome of this phase? A. Restoration of the damaged systems from the latest known good backup media. B. A validated plan detailing which systems are non-recoverable and must be replaced. C. A clear definition of the necessary restoration tasks and their dependencies and priorities. D. The final postmortem report, documenting the lessons learned from the failure. The correct answer is C. A clear definition of the necessary restoration tasks and their dependencies and priorities. Explanation. The assessment phase critically determines the full scope of the damage. Its main output is a damage report that informs and structures the subsequent restoration phase by prioritizing the recovery tasks based on the business impact of each affected system. 80. The final action following a successful disaster recovery activation is the return to normal business operations. What must happen during the restoration phase to ensure the recovered environment is trustworthy and secure? A. The system owner must review the original business impact analysis (BIA) document. B. All firewalls must be temporarily disabled to ensure connectivity to the backup site. C. The security team must perform a final vulnerability scan and system integrity check. D. The DRP coordinator must immediately notify all external regulatory bodies. The correct answer is C. The security team must perform a final vulnerability scan and system integrity check. Explanation. Before returning to normal operations, the recovered environment must be verified as secure and free from compromise. A final integrity check and vulnerability scan confirms that the system is clean, properly hardened, and secure before being reintroduced into the production environment. 81. A fundamental component of a successful DRP is ensuring all relevant staff are familiar with their roles and the process. What key element of training and awareness must be included to maximize its effectiveness? A. Mandatory annual training focused solely on the physical security policies of the primary data center. B. Training modules that are specific to the individual's role and include realistic scenario exercises. C. Distributing a digital copy of the DRP document to every employee on the corporate network. D. Conducting a generic, one-time presentation on the company's organizational chart. The correct answer is B. Training modules that are specific to the individual's role and include realistic scenario exercises. Explanation. Effective DRP training and awareness must be role-specific and incorporate realistic exercises. This ensures that personnel understand not just what the plan is, but how to execute their precise responsibilities under pressure. 82. After performing a full-scale DRP test, the team identifies several steps in the recovery process that were inefficient and caused unnecessary delays. This finding is addressed in the lessons learned phase. What is the immediate output of this phase that drives continuous improvement? A. A request for proposal, RFP, for a new recovery site vendor. B. An official, documented update to the existing DRP and supporting procedures. C. A formal disciplinary action report for the staff members who performed poorly during the test. D. A comparison of the observed recovery point objective, RPO, against the contractual SLA. The correct answer is B. An official, documented update to the existing DRP and supporting procedures. Explanation. The output of the lessons learned phase is the tangible documentation of required improvements. This is translated directly into an official update of the DRP and its related operational procedures, completing the feedback loop and ensuring continuous improvement. 83. A DRP test reveals that the third-party communication service used to notify employees failed immediately after the main power outage. What DRP phase must be revisited and corrected based on this failure? A. Restoration. B. Assessment. C. Recovery. D. Communications. The correct answer is D. Communications. Explanation. The failure of the notification system directly points to a flaw in the communications plan element of the DRP. This phase defines the methods and systems used for communication, which must be resilient and available even when primary systems are offline. 84. The IT team schedules a DRP test where all participants review the plan documentation together in a meeting room, confirming their understanding of the content. Which type of DRP test is being performed? A. Simulation test. B. Parallel test. C. Read-through, tabletop exercise. D. Full interruption test. The correct answer is C. Read-through, tabletop exercise. Explanation. A read-through or tabletop exercise is the simplest and least costly form of DRP test. It involves participants gathering to verbally walk through the plan, confirming roles, responsibilities, and procedures without actually disturbing any live systems or resources. 85. During a DRP test, the recovery team physically goes to the hot site, reviews the documents, and verifies the connections to the remote network, but does not shut down the primary production site. Which type of DRP test is being conducted? A. Full interruption test. B. Walkthrough. C. Simulation test. D. Full cutover test. The correct answer is B. Walkthrough. Explanation. A walkthrough is more involved than a tabletop but less disruptive than a simulation. It typically involves participants physically visiting the recovery site to check facilities, documentation, and connectivity, but no actual system failover or data processing is initiated. 86. A DRP test is conducted where the IT team practices a complete failover of a non-critical application to the recovery site, using simulated data and conditions, while the primary site remains operational. Which type of DRP test is this? A. Read-through exercise. B. Parallel test. C. Full interruption test. D. Simulation. The correct answer is D. Simulation. Explanation. A simulation test involves executing the plan in a realistic, non-disruptive environment, often using a single, isolated application or system, under mock conditions. It tests the procedures and the team's ability to respond without impacting the main production systems. 87. An organization executes a DRP test where the critical production systems are intentionally shut down, and the recovery site is brought online to process real, live production transactions. Which is the highest level of DRP testing being performed? A. Parallel test. B. Simulation test. C. Walkthrough. D. Full interruption. The correct answer is D. Full interruption. Explanation. A full interruption, or full-scale, test is the most rigorous and realistic test, requiring the intentional shutdown of the primary site and the execution of the full recovery plan to handle live production workloads. This verifies the plans and the team's ability to manage an actual disaster. 88. Following a DRP test, the test coordinator needs to communicate the status of the exercise to the company's investors and the regulatory body. This communication falls under which category of DRP testing considerations? A. Read-through, tabletop. B. Simulation. C. Communications. D. Full interruption. The correct answer is C. Communications. Explanation. The DRP must include a communication strategy detailing how and what information is shared during and after a test or disaster. Stakeholder and regulatory communications ensure transparency, meet compliance obligations, and manage the expectations of the public, investors, and governing bodies. 89. During a DRP test, the team successfully restores all systems but finds that the communication channels intended to update the executive team failed. What is the correct post-test action for the DRP coordinator regarding this failure? A. Initiate a full-scale forensic investigation into the cause of the communication failure. B. Document the failure in the lessons learned report and update the communications plan. C. Immediately restart the test with a different communication method to verify success. D. Proceed directly to the restoration phase since the technical recovery was successful. The correct answer is B. Document the failure in the lessons learned report and update the communications plan. Explanation. All issues identified during a DRP test, regardless of success, must be formally documented in the lessons learned report. This initiates the necessary update process to ensure the DRP, specifically the communications plan in this case, is corrected and improved. 90. The most effective time to conduct a full interruption DRP test is when the organization is least dependent on its systems. This is often during which period? A. Immediately following the annual external audit. B. The start of the business day. C. Non-peak business hours or scheduled maintenance windows. D. Immediately after a critical patch is deployed. The correct answer is C. Non-peak business hours or scheduled maintenance windows. Explanation. A full interruption test requires intentional system shutdown. To minimize business impact and risk, it should be scheduled during periods of lowest operational dependence, such as weekends, late at night, or within an already planned maintenance window. 91. A key goal of business continuity, BC, planning is to establish recovery strategies for all mission-essential business functions. Which foundational document dictates which functions must be prioritized in the BC plan? A. The Incident Response Plan, IRP. B. The Disaster Recovery Plan, DRP. C. The System Security Plan, SSP. D. The Business Impact Analysis, BIA. The correct answer is D. The Business Impact Analysis, BIA. Explanation. The Business Impact Analysis, BIA, is the foundational element of BC planning. It identifies and prioritizes all critical business functions and their dependencies, quantifying the impact of their loss and establishing the RTOs and RPOs that the BC and DR plans must meet. 92. During a business continuity, BC, exercise, the focus shifts from IT systems to the viability of the entire organization. What does a successful BC exercise validate? A. The ability to restore a specific server from backup within the RTO. B. The continuation of all critical, revenue-generating business operations. C. The technical procedures for system failover and network recovery. D. The time needed to physically evacuate a facility in case of a fire. The correct answer is B. The continuation of all critical, revenue-generating business operations. Explanation. A business continuity, BC, exercise tests the entire organization's ability to maintain essential business functions and operations during and after a disruptive event. The Disaster Recovery Plan, DRP, focuses on technology recovery. Business continuity, BC, focuses on the survival of the business itself. 93. A security architect designs the perimeter defense for a data center, including vehicle barriers, high fences, and surveillance cameras at the property line. These are all examples of which physical security control category? A. Internal security controls. B. Administrative security controls. C. Perimeter security controls. D. Environmental security controls. The correct answer is C. Perimeter security controls. Explanation. Perimeter security controls are the measures used to protect the exterior boundary of a facility, such as fences, gates, lighting, alarms, and vehicle barriers, designed to deter, detect, and delay unauthorized access to the property. 94. To protect a server room, the security team implements cipher locks on the door, motion detectors, and a man-trap system. These are controls designed to protect the assets inside the building. What is this control category known as? A. External deterrent controls. B. Internal security controls. C. Infrastructure security controls. D. Facility hardening controls. The correct answer is B. Internal security controls. Explanation. Internal security controls protect the resources inside the facility once the perimeter has been breached or bypassed. This includes man-traps, secured doors, surveillance cameras, alarm systems, and environmental controls within the building itself. 95. To protect a critical system from environmental threats, the security team implements an inert gas suppression system and a UPS battery backup. These are classified as which type of physical security control? A. Deterrent. B. Compensating. C. Detective. D. Preventive. The correct answer is D. Preventive. Explanation. Preventive controls are designed to stop an undesirable event from occurring. A UPS, uninterruptible power supply, prevents power loss, and a gas suppression system prevents fire damage, making both classified as preventive physical controls. 96. A high-profile executive travels frequently overseas and carries a laptop with highly sensitive company data. What is the most critical security measure to implement to address the risk of loss or theft during travel? A. Mandating that the executive keep the laptop in the hotel safe when not in use. B. Training the executive on local customs and political risks in each destination country. C. Implementing full disk encryption on the laptop and using strong multi-factor authentication. D. Requiring the executive to connect only to the company VPN when accessing resources. The correct answer is C. Implementing full disk encryption on the laptop and using strong multi-factor authentication. Explanation. The primary security concern for a traveling laptop is the risk of physical loss or theft. Full disk encryption, FDE, is the most critical technical control, ensuring that the data at rest on the device remains unreadable and confidential even if the hardware is stolen. 97. A company mandates that all employees watch an annual video and complete a quiz on identifying phishing emails and the impact of sharing too much information on social media. This is an example of which key personnel security measure? A. Job rotation. B. Separation of duties, SOD. C. Mandatory vacation. D. Security training and awareness. The correct answer is D. Security training and awareness. Explanation. Security training and awareness programs are mandatory processes designed to educate employees on their security responsibilities, covering topics like social engineering, phishing, acceptable use, and insider threat indicators to mitigate risks caused by human error. 98. A new security measure requires employees to use a separate physical token in addition to their password to access the corporate VPN. Over time, employees complain about the complexity and delay, leading some to bypass the control. This situation is best described by which concept? A. Social engineering. B. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, fatigue. C. Principle of least privilege. D. Authentication aggregation. The correct answer is B. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, fatigue. Explanation. 2FA fatigue, or MFA fatigue, is a security concern where users become overwhelmed or annoyed by frequent, numerous, or overly complicated multi-factor prompts. This can lead them to accept the prompts without scrutiny or seek ways to bypass the security control, thereby reducing the overall security posture. 99. During an active shooter exercise, the security team conducts a full simulation, including notification protocols and personnel evacuation routes. What is the primary focus of the emergency management process being tested? A. Securing critical data assets before the physical security team arrives. B. Analyzing the system logs for potential insider threats during the confusion. C. Coordinating and controlling the response to protect human life and minimize immediate damage. D. Restoring all critical IT systems within the recovery time objective, RTO. The correct answer is C. Coordinating and controlling the response to protect human life and minimize immediate damage. Explanation. Emergency management focuses on the immediate, structured response to a crisis, like a shooter, fire, or major weather event. Its primary goal is the coordination of resources and actions to stabilize the event, protect life, and manage the immediate consequence, taking precedence over system recovery or log analysis. 100. A security policy requires all employees in the cash management office to activate a silent panic button immediately if they are forced to perform unauthorized transactions under coercion. This control is an example of addressing which personnel safety concern? A. Social engineering. B. Duress. C. Separation of duties, SOD. D. Collusion. The correct answer is B. Duress. Explanation. Duress refers to the threat of physical harm or violence forcing a person to perform an action against their will. Implementing silent alarms or panic words provides a means to alert security personnel without escalating the immediate physical threat, specifically addressing this concern. Thank you for watching the entire video. Please like and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our new tutorials, quizzes, and multiple choice questions. You can leave your feedback or queries in the comments below.